G'day, Ben from Melbourne here, and this is part 3 of my favourite Australian music from the 90s, but the CD edition. I think I said in the previous ones that I'd have to do a CD one because, of course, the 90s was the era of CDs being hugely popular and overtaking vinyl as the most popular format, and a lot of stuff still hasn't come out on vinyl, but I don't want some of these great bands to be missed out on. And previously, as I said, this is the era where I moved to the city, and music became not just a listening on the home stereo format, it became a live thing as well, where I would regularly go out and see bands. And yeah, luckily enough, got to see a lot of small indie bands in small venues. Yeah, it was a great time. Okay, so let's get into it. I'm going to start off with someone who I feel like I talk about nearly every video I do, and that's Ed Cooper. But yeah, this is the Aints with Ascension on Hot Records CD, back cover, and whoop, I don't know where that went. And yeah, the live one were called Very Live, SLSQ. This, I never got to see the Aints until they reformed a few years ago. But these Aints records are just amazing, just searing stuff. Started off as an answer to Chris Bailey continuing on with the Saints, and Ed Cooper doing live shows and just doing his versions of Saints songs, but ended up doing their own original music, and it's pretty incredible stuff. It was nice because at the time the Laughing Clowns had finished and he was still continuing with his solo stuff, which was a lot mellower, so it was good to see Ed come out and just smash it to pieces and play some really electrified, ferocious guitar, which we all know and love from the Saints. Like, check out this band, like, you know, Ed Cooper guitar and vocals, Kent Steedman on bass, and Tim Reeves on drums. Amazing stuff. I don't think I could say it better than David Frick, who says maximum distortion and one of the best original songbooks in punk rock. The Saints, without the S, make the kind of deathless live Oz rock that I usually have to fly 10,000 miles to hear. So that's a pretty good recommendation of that there live record, but that's killer too. Alright, let's get with some stuff which actually was a band that was formed in the 90s, and yeah, were great. Totally different thing. Underground Lovers. These guys started off on this album as kind of like a keyboard, like there's a lot of the songs sound like they're written on keyboards with a bit of guitar, driving drums, long songs which had that feel of psychedelic, but also very modern at the same time. Yeah, great stuff. They were an amazing band in the day, Underground Lovers, and became more of a pop band as time went on, but also, you know, even within the pop realm, they were releasing great songs and great records. Yeah, again, like many of these bands from the 90s, they're back together again and doing great stuff. Next up, I'm talking about Not From There. Little known band. I think these guys were, I want to say Sydney, but I'm also feeling Perth. But this was just quintessential indie rock in the loud guitar driving rhythm section kind of thing, which was the way it was back in the day in the 90s. Like, indie rock seemed to become cardigan wearing, introspective, let's just play softly music. But back in my day, it was like this. It was catchy, it was noisy, and it was loud, and it was great. And Not From There just exemplify that. They were brilliant. Don't know whatever happened to them. I think they released another record after this, but this was the one I've got that faded into obscurity, unfortunately. And speaking of obscurity, one of the early gigs I ever saw in Melbourne, the Punters Club, punk rock band from Tasmania called Mouth. Now, you may not have heard of them, but you may have heard of Tim Evans, who went on and formed the Bird Blobs, among other like amazing, I think, Pink Grease. Oh no, I'm fucking that up. But anyway, always good stuff. But this Mouth album, you know, he might be embarrassed about it because he really wears his heart on his sleeve lyrically, but musically, this is just shearing amazing punk rock. Like, the guitar playing and the feedback is just, you know, amazing, and really solid rhythm section. There we go. You know, back in the 90s when you could still get away with a mohawk in a punk rock band and then have a hippie long head, dude. But yeah, I don't know. This is just, as far as I know, it was only reissued once after this, but on CD. Never seen it on vinyl. Saw their the only time I saw them was actually their very last gig, and yeah, they blew my mind. It was just kind of like a revelatory moment for me, going to see live gigs and putting it all together of, wow, it doesn't have to be how I thought it was. And yeah, awesome stuff. All right, Glide, indie rock to the hilt. Some of the catchiest, greatest stuff. Great live band. Released a slew of great EPs, and a couple of albums. Just this track on this, Open Up and Croon, is just phenomenal. But the whole record's good. On the CD back cover there. Saw them a number of times back in the day, and yeah, really great quintessential indie rock, indie pop stuff. These guys were the real deal. Should have been more successful than they were, like nearly every single one of these bands, including this one, Gaslight Radio. Amazing band, led by the two brothers, Martin and Rory. What were their surnames? Of course, it's not written here, so I'm going to look like a unknowledgeable dickhead right now. But anyway, you're just going to have to trust me. They were friggin' unbelievable. This first one, a lot of Pixies influence on here, but in the good way, not in the rip-off way. One of the ones where I do have a 7-inch of theirs, bought back at the time. Most of this, there was when you used to be able to buy a 7-inch for like $5 at a show. Awesome stuff. Fantastic band. Like, really great, quirky indie stuff with really overdriven guitars to the point where anytime they didn't touch them, they'd feedback like crazy. Alright, a change of pace, and when I say change of pace, I mean even faster pace. We're talking about the Fireballs. Saw these guys many times. These guys were like punkabilly, psychobilly, almost metalish. three dudes with huge mohawks who by the end of the show would be like flat because they would just go mental, and they had double bass. The guy who played drums was the lead singer and he'd also stand up and play drums and do double bass drum, which I have no idea how you do that shit. This was their last record, as far as I know, on CD. Never come out on vinyl. There they are there. Amazing hairstyles. I think they had a falling out with the guitarist, the bass player, and the drummer. Cool. Remember when CDs covers used to fold out like that and not just be a little card? Yeah, great stuff. Most of it's like full tilt. It's called So Bad It's Good. But then, there's two songs, Crazy Baby and a semi-successful song called Voodoo, which they really kick back and go real rockabilly, but with their own crazy slant on it. Really good stuff, the Fireballs. Alright, next up, a band I could not talk about the 90s without talking about, because I think I saw them more than any other band, and that's Mornington Peninsula's The Fauves. These guys, I've got everything they've ever released on CD. I got a couple of 7-inches, and their last thing that they did just a couple of years ago was a double album, and it's still fantastic. Like, that change of pace, they've evolved and developed and changed over the years, but it's mainly the same core of the band. They've just had a different bass player. And this was the first one I heard, called Drive Through Charisma. I actually saw them support the Throwing Muses before I owned anything, and just I thought they were brilliant. The banter in between songs, I'd never heard like a local band talk like that and be so sarcastic and sardonic and also funny at the same time. Yeah, these guys, I don't think a lot of people got them, because they had humour, which seems to be a no-no in music for some reason. But they weren't a funny band, if you know what I mean. There was no novelty about them. They were great musicians and wrote great songs. On this one alone, like The Driver Is You, The Single Dwarf on Dwarf, and Caesar's Surrender, just fantastic indie rock stuff. Two lead vocalists, the Doctor, or Phil Leonard as his mother calls him, and Andrew Cox, one with more smooth voice, one with the more husky voice. Great songwriters, and a great live band. And I'm gonna have to show a couple of their stuff. This is the one where they had the semi-hit called Future. This one's called Future Spa, and the song, which I think was the one that kind of pegged them as a comedy band, called Dogs Are the Best People, but they weren't at all. So much more to them than they were given credit for. Like songs like, it sounds funny, like Understanding Caius, like great lyrics of, along the lines of, who cares if Caius are probably fucking idiots, just get into the music. Which I just love that sort of stuff. Big Brother rage about, like, trying to live up to your big brother as the younger brother, which thankfully mine never did, because I was a complete idiot when I was younger, and he turned out a good guy. Anyway, Future Spa, great record, more in the hard rock thing. They got completely sick of the whole mosh thing that happened then, and then they released what was the one that I think is a brilliant record called Lazy Highways. But it's a mellow record, and it's a reaction against like the mosh pit and all that stuff that was going in the 90s. And there's like beautiful songs like Ocean Hearted, Beach Boy-esque harmonies in Surf City Limits, The Atlas Way. Just, I don't know, like, I'll probably, if people go and search them online, they'll probably be like, what the hell are you talking about? They're terrible. But I just love this band. And then there was even a documentary made about them, and it was at the time of the recording of this, and how they struggled to follow up with any hits of the previous album, Future Spa, and many people assumed that they'd broken up because of the way the documentary went. But they ended up releasing a great record called 1,000-Yard Stare, which also had a lot of brilliant sardonic songs, astronaut talk. At the time, our Prime Minister John Howard was, banging on about Celebrate the Nation, so they have a song that takes the piss out of that, which we really enjoy. A bit of, different sound on this one, drum machines, incorporated as well, but nothing to take away from Dougie, who's one of the great drummers, and he worked with it beautifully. And just to show a bit of vinyl, this is 7-inch of theirs. Daughter Abroad, this is one of their really early ones. Amazing band in my opinion. Like, a lot of people, I don't know why, never got into them. Alright, next up, a band that was the opposite of the Phobes and won many ARIAs and were quite successful, and that was The Cruel Sea, which was the band that already existed as an instrumental band, and then Tex Perkins joined them. He of Be Suburban fame and a million other things, and you can't deny this is a great funky record. It definitely informed by that New Orleans style of funk, but it can't help it sound Australian. The song The Honeymoon Is Over was a big hit over here. Really great record. Some cool instrumental grooves on here as well. I wish it would come out on vinyl. I would buy it straight away. Alright, now this could be a controversial one. Probably not actually. I don't know why I said that. But Spiderbait, maybe it's just in my head because they become something that I didn't like at all. But this record back in the 90s, or this CD, the Unfinished Spanish Galleon of Finley Lake, was amazing. Huge fuzz guitars, frantic beats, weirdness, great live band, singing drummer. Janet, the bass player, would sing a couple songs like Jesus, Sam Goebbels, and Monty was the first one I saw, which had the most mental film clip ever. These guys, was great. You'd go see them every weekend. Not every weekend, but a lot. And they had, like, I love just their distinctive artwork as well. I love that cheesy painting of them. Great record, great band. Went on and become the darlings of Triple J, but I think that's the best one they ever did. Alright, next, a Sydney band called Crow. I'm going to show two. That was the album, which had the amazing song called Railhead. Peter Fenton, lead singer, guitarist. These are, the quintessential angular, arty kind of band, which were brooding and dark and all that sort of thing. But for me, I guess it was because it was the one I bought at the show, is the EP, in the Halcyon Days. Just every track of this I love. No Harder Face, the Halcyon Days, Opal, Yellow Beam, March Hare. This unusual band, baritone vocals, kind of odd rhythm section, brooding, theatrical, really good live band on Half a Cow Records. Not sure if they're still going, but they used to pump out a ton of good Sydney stuff. Crow. Alright, Pollyanna, another Sydney band. We've moved on to EPs. I forgot that I've already got to 10. But we're going to go with Pollyanna and their EP Junior. And the standout track for me with this was Pale Grey Eyes. These guys obviously, in my mind, listen to a lot of Sugar and from Bob Moulds. early band in the early 90s. But yeah, great stuff, great live band, solid, big, wild Bob Mould style razor sharp guitars, and yeah, and like Sugar, those catchy choruses buried underneath the fuzz. Next one, Spunk Luster. This is like the only thing I know of them. I bought this at the show. It's just quintessential Melbourne indie rock, which it's kind of, I don't know, it's called Can't Last the Distance. You know, Brunswick Street, Melbourne, 90s, pretentious, awesome. Another one, bought at the show, The Verys. They had two singers. I like the guy with the deeper voice who looked like his head was going to explode when he really let rip. There's a song on this called You Can, which I absolutely love on here. Now, this one's must be getting towards the end. It's on Red Eye Records. I can't imagine they did many more after that one. And then, of course, The Clouds, very popular Sydney band. Come out. It's a pretty cool EP. I don't know why you'd spend that much money on a coloured cover for just an EP. Although the single was Aquamarine, I absolutely love. They do an amazing cover of Wichita Lineman on this with harmony vocals, which are just incredible. Yeah. I won't say it's better than the original, but it's pretty damn good. Alright, now some special mentions. We mentioned Custard in the vinyl part, but their first two albums were Hootie Fandango and Weisenheimer. Still, as far as I know, yet to have vinyl releases, and both fantastic, great quirky pop stuff. Aloha Tamburinas, Pack Your Suitcases and the like. They had a drummer back in these days who I would like, and it doesn't come across on the records, but to go and see them live, he was kind of like the indie rock Keith Moon. He was just all arms and frenzy all at once, and yeah, they were really great fun. I saw a great show, which was Custard, the Fauves, and Fireballs all together in one night, and it was brilliant. Ended up with people hanging from the roof and God knows what else. And anyway, another special mention, Sidewinder, guitar-y, spooky, indie rock, big riffs, more into that thing. Don't know what happened to them, but another great Melbourne band from Sydney, not Melbourne band, Sydney band on Half a Cow Records, who I saw and bought this at the show because they were so impressive and ended up being good. EP and Quickies, Regurgitator, of course, had much success over here. This is their first EP. There goes the cover. With Couldn't Do It. Kind of a mashup band of a lot of genres, but they somehow made it work. Of course, yet again, Ed Cooper with his amazing album Honey Steals Gold. I don't think this came out on vinyl. I've seen it, but I think they're boots. This is just, I think this is probably Ed Cooper's best solo record. Just check out the songs on this. Everything I've Got, Belongs to You, The Way I Made You Feel. Yeah, this is friggin' amazing record. And lastly, of course, the reformed Go-Betweens. None of this stuff's come out on vinyl yet. And what a victory lap that they had. These are really great records. Sad that Lindy Morrison wasn't involved. But great that Robert Forster and Grant McClellan did something before Grant McClellan's untimely death. All right, that was big and long, But that's the CD version of my favourite Australian music from the 90s. See you next time.